We're here today to discuss the recent surge of smash and grabs. Our purpose is to hold Gavin Newsom and his government responsible for the destruction of property, the loss of livelihoods for both business owners and workers. However, before we begin, please support us, Rescue California, by helping us to educate your friends and neighbors. Please click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. Rescue California's new mission statement, a nonpartisan effort to protect California from legislation that cripples Californians' quality of life. We do this by engaging civil discussions to acknowledge problems and come up with solutions in this diverse state. And really, the only way we can accomplish that is if we unite as nonpartisans. My guest today is Michelle Hannessy. Michelle is a subject matter expert who is not affiliated with Rescue California. She's a longtime LA County prosecutor who prosecutes murders and other high-profile crimes. She is the president of the Association of Deputy District Attorneys, and her Monday morning memo is a must-read for anybody concerned about the state of California's criminal justice system. This segment will focus on the smash and grabs. Let's play a clip of the recent smash and grabs in Los Angeles.
Well, the former display window behind me now boarded up, painted black. The latest evidence of this frightening and increasing crime trend that basically the answer from police and private companies is to increase patrols. Today, inside the Grove, LAPD officers on a high-profile foot patrol. Private security making their presence known as well. Outside, an LAPD SUV parked, empty, lights flashing, perhaps a deterrent. This after a smash-and-grab robbery attempt at an exterior Nordstrom window. The robbers foiled by what's called ballistic film on the glass. Their sledgehammer left behind, the latest in a growing crime trend.
It's scary for everybody in Los Angeles to be watching these images all around the city and the state.
The Grove's developer, Rick Caruso, says increased policing is one obvious answer, but also agrees with those pressing for tougher laws to turn misdemeanor theft into felonies.
When you have a 20-pound sledgehammer and you're a group of people and you're trying to break into a window to steal, that's a crime. Go to jail.
But I'm going to be in conversations over the course of the next month with some of our local officials and also some of the folks from the police department and some people who work on community safety to see what we can do.
Of course, it's not just L.A. Midnight Saturday, Beverly Hills. A crew in vehicles tried to hit Saks Fifth Avenue as well as Louis Vuitton. Before that, it was San Francisco. Up to 80 people in a flash mob robbery at a Nordstrom there. As for last night's crew at the Grove, police responded, pursued, and arrested 3, jackets in their car. It may be the same crew that earlier robbed a South LA CVS, stealing a cash drawer. LAPD Chief Michael Moore's response to these frightening incidents?
As a department, we're going to take and act aggressively in ensuring that we have invisibility that's readily seen. We'll also act swiftly in the apprehension and prosecution of those that feel that this is an opportunity for them. And we're also continuing to monitor open source social media feeds such as Instagram and Twitter and other such that broadcast information about these individuals that as they move about the city or they go about their actions, that we would be aware of it and use those those information flows to assist us in thwarting their efforts to cause this havoc in our communities.
Well, that's a long way of saying they're going to increase police patrols, which again is an obvious tactic, and then they're going to closely monitor social media because, Ellis and Christine, there's some thought that these are organized gangs that plan these robbery attempts in advance, scout locations, scout escape routes. The other line of thinking is that they're crimes of opportunity. The reality is it's probably a combination of both. Live at the Grove, I'm Phil Schuman, Fox 11 News.
Yeah, some 20 people, though, showed up at the Grove last night. You got to think that's probably organized. Thank you so much, Phil.
Yeah, well, these chaotic images have become way too common throughout California. They're disrupting the holiday shopping season. They're causing anxiety for vendors, customers, and law enforcement. Michelle, what do you Whoa, what are you and your colleagues seeing on the front lines here?
Well, 3 out of 4 of those incidents you just played were here in Los Angeles County. So we are not unaware of the problem, obviously. And post Prop 47, shoplifting, whether you do it with the group or you do it alone, it's always going to be a misdemeanor for theft amounts under $950. Even if you steal multiple times a day, so long as each incident is under $950, it is only a misdemeanor, and that's part of the problem. Then you have prosecutors in cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco that aren't enforcing the laws that do exist, aren't even enforcing those. So for example, here in Los Angeles, under George Gascon's Special Directive 2007, all misdemeanor cases get an offer of diversion, which means that no charges are even filed. The person just has to behave themselves for 6 months or 12 months, and then they walk away with no record. But even those people who do have prior theft convictions, who do have prior diversions for misdemeanor thefts, are getting diversion again and again and again under this policy. So there's really no consequence whatsoever. A person can shoplift 50 times and continually get diversion and no jail time. And again, under Mr. Gascon's policy, even if a prosecutor were to find some reason to deviate from the policy and ask for jail time, they can't ask for more than 15 days. And 15 days in LA County Jail is probably going to end up being more like 1 day. So there's just no consequences.
So Proposition 47, that was the Safe Neighborhood and School Act. Is that correct?
That is what it was called. That's what it was called.
That's what it was called. So we're really talking about a lack of consequence for a proposition that was basically falsely sold to the people of California. At least that's the way I would define that. So let me read a quote to you by the LA Police Department Chief, Michael Moore. Crimes like these have a profoundly greater impact on the sense of safety and security than simply the dollar loss of the merchandise. Best Buy CEO Corey Berry said that this is a real issue that hurts and scares people. Berry reports that she has seen organized theft increase across the country, but particularly in San Francisco. She said that Best Buy will be hiring security guards and working with its vendors on creative ways to stage products. Now, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, but I've always thought that a fundamental responsibility of government is public safety. But according the takeaway from Ms. Berry's remark is that it's now the responsibility of vendors to secure their own establishments and protect their own customers. What do you think, Michelle? I mean, this seems a little backwards to me.
Well, it's an abdication of the role of responsible government is what it is. Can you imagine being out to do your Christmas shopping wherever, Best Buy, Target, anywhere that you might go, and have a group of thieves, a huge mob of thieves rush in? They have used bear spray in the past. They've got sledgehammers and other metal objects. They spray the security guards with bear spray. I'm sure it's absolutely terrifying, not just for the employees, but also for the shoppers in the store. And this seems to be the new crime. This is the new crime going out of 2021 into 2022. And if our responsible leaders don't address it, I can't see it going away.
Well, you know, if you're doing your Christmas shopping in San Francisco and you're thinking of going to Target, you're going to have to get there early because they are closing their stores earlier these days simply as a response to the smash and grab. They just can't handle it. And even beyond Target, Walgreens drugstore has closed numerous locations throughout San Francisco. So this is a quality of life issue that just ripples through society and makes things more difficult for all of us at the same time.
Mark, what if you're a parent who needs children's cough medicine in the middle of the night and CVS is closed and Target is closed? There's nowhere to go.
No, you're exactly right. Sure, you're exactly right. You might have to drive 20, 30 miles just to find somebody that can sell you the cough syrup. Now, California's Governor Gavin Newsom and our Attorney General Rob Bonta each continue to argue that police and prosecutors have the legal tools to go after these perpetrators. Newsom has called out local officials who choose not to do so. According to Mr. Bonta, There are more than enough tools in the California criminal justice toolbox to charge them as such and hold the folks accountable. Newsom asserts that after Prop 47, shoplifting dropped significantly and property crimes dropped significantly. Newsom, in fact, said, these organized crime waves, millions of dollars of materials have been taken. That has nothing to do with Prop 47 and the $950 because it well exceeds that. Prop 47 has been conveniently used, from my humble perspective, as an excuse for things that don't necessarily have to be. We need arrests and we need prosecutions. Prop 47 seems rather insignificant in relationship to what's been happening with these organized crimes because it's well beyond the $950 limit. So let's take a look at a clip from Newsom's interview with the Sacramento Bee.
And I totally reject that people can't do anything about retail theft. I mean, I didn't go to law school. I wasn't smart enough to go to law school. I couldn't pass the LSAT, but I can read the penal code sections and forgive me, look them up. 666, Google it right now. Penal code section, forgive me if I'm off, but I think it's 459.5. Those are existing penal code sections. There's probably 4 or 5 others where you can charge people. And a lot of these damn DAs out there, Republican DAs, act like they can't do a damn thing because Prop 47. That's not true. Read the penal code sections. They're using many of them from some god-awful excuse. I think there's a little bit of, all I'm suggesting, I get they don't like 57, Governor Brown's reform. They don't like Prop 47, the states and the voters reform. Prop 36, the state and the voters reforms. But there's a lot more tools in the toolkit than I think than some of these people are leading you to believe.
Yeah, I can't believe that this governor has seen a tool shed in his entire life. Little bit defensive there, Mr. Newsom. Listen, you know the penal code. I mean, you're the expert here. What do you say?
I have my penal code right here, Mark. It's right here. And you know the saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. I'm sure the governor has legal advisors he could have asked about this, but the truth is penal code section 666 that he read in the penal code was completely vitiated by Prop 47. It is no longer valid. The print's still there in the book, but it doesn't mean anything anymore. It got replaced by a new law that was acted as part of Prop 47. That's penal code section 490.2. And what 490.2 says is that shoplifting is always a misdemeanor, no matter how many prior shoplifting convictions you have. It would only be chargeable as more than a misdemeanor if you had like strikes, like violent prior felonies. But you can rack up as many misdemeanor convictions for shoplifting as you want, and it's always going to be a misdemeanor. And that is part of the problem. And that is the big tool that Prop 47 took away. But I will say that the governor is right in one sense, that some local DAs are choosing not to prosecute these crimes, even for the misdemeanors they are. And that is also part of the problem. It's another crack in the dam. It's another crack in the dike. And you start getting all these little cracks, and suddenly we're seeing this deluge of property crimes.
Yeah, you know, the district attorney here in San Francisco completely ignored all of this. I mean, stores were closing. The streets are covered in glass. They call it San Francisco snow because of all of the vehicle thefts. I don't know. I think somebody needs to be held accountable for some of this stuff. I've always said that public safety is a nonpartisan issue. Here's an opposing opinion by Democratic Assemblyman Jim Cooper, who is a retired Sacramento County Sheriff's Captain. Mr. Cooper said, the governor is wrong. Shoplifting has been decriminalized, so it's underreported. They're not going to file a report. Police don't respond. Mark Stainbrook, the Beverly Hills police chief said, I think this is a confluence of about 10 years of laws and policy making, starting with Prop 47, then AB 109, and Prop 57, which essentially decriminalized many of the crimes in California. Now, you know, Michelle, I did a lot of work between 1993 and 2003 to hold criminals accountable. Things like 3 strikes and you're out, enhancements for the use of guns during robberies. And by 2003, crime had been cut in California. Both violent crime and property crime had been cut in half. But then starting with AB 109, which was in 2011, it all started falling apart. And the criminal code we're looking at now has absolutely no resemblance to the criminal code we were looking at then. Then there was accountability. Now there's not even wrist slapping. What do you think? How does this play out in the courtroom?
Well, I agree with Assemblyman Cooper. After Prop 47, thefts didn't go down. They were just being underreported. What happened is they immediately spiked up and then they started to go down. And what we were seeing anecdotally, and what I know from talking to police officers, is that when citizens and business owners learned that they would have to take an hour or 2 out of their day to make a police report, maybe go to court, and nothing was going to happen as a result, they decided not to waste their time. They were going to cut their losses, suffer the loss, and not waste more of their time by dealing with the police and the court system. And I agree with Assemblyman Cooper that the crime trends we're seeing are the result of a confluence of bad laws and bad policy. You had AB 109 that filled local jails with people who used to be in state prisons, so there's no room left for people who were supposed to serve misdemeanor sentences in local jail. Prop 47 didn't just make theft under $950 a misdemeanor. It got rid of what we would call prior ability, which interfered with the police's ability to arrest someone for shoplifting. They can't arrest on a misdemeanor shoplifting unless they actually witness it, which never happens. And then, of course, Prop 57 allowed early release, not just for nonviolent felons, but for sex offenders and 3 strikers after they challenged that in court. If you add to that now some of the current policies that we're seeing from some of the district attorneys and the courts, the zero bail, DAs who won't prosecute misdemeanors, it's the perfect storm, and there is just no consequence for crime.
And the crime numbers apparently go down as well, since it's no longer a felony to steal up to 950. So basically, let me just ask you, if somebody steals under $950 worth of merchandise in a given incident several times a day, when do they reach the threshold of having committed a felony?
Never. The courts have said repeatedly in appellate opinions that you cannot consolidate the losses from different thefts to make it a felony. And that's very clear case law. And I know that some legislators and the governor has said, why don't the district attorneys do this? Why don't they consolidate the losses from multiple crimes? Because it's not legal to do so, and the courts have said so.
Well, listen, we've talked about the issue here. We've talked about the problem. Now let's talk a little bit about solutions. Attorney Thomas Hilchak from a law firm that has worked with prosecutors introduced a ballot measure last week that would allow up to a year in jail for anyone who previously was twice convicted of various thefts. To quote, brazen retail theft, auto theft, porch piracy, and other similar crimes are out of control. Anyone convicted 2 or more times for these types of theft crimes must be incarcerated for up to 1 year. No exceptions, no excuses. Now, that's all well and good, but it goes counter to everything that's being done in the criminal justice system these days. I mean, we're talking about no kinds of accountability whatsoever. We're talking about no penalty enhancements whatsoever. All of this stuff has been stripped out. So what do you think? I mean, is this a good idea? Is this enough?
Well, assuming you could get that through the legislature, which I have serious doubts about that, making repeat thefts chargeable as a felony could go a long way towards mitigating present theft trends. That's the tool that we lost with Prop 47. However, if you pass that law, it would still be dependent on a district attorney who is willing to enforce it. And right now in LA, in San Francisco, and some of these other jurisdictions, they don't enforce the existing laws.
You know, the San Francisco DA, until he was faced with a very real recall of his own, completely ignored this issue. Now he's making some noise. Now he's talking about doing some prosecutions, but we'll see how that plays out. This might just be something for some food for the base. Now, we've all heard from politicians that property crime is a victimless crime. Let's play a clip and see what this gentleman, a small business owner, has to say.
It is a troubling story of this holiday shopping season, brazen retail thefts.
KPIX5's Lynn Ramirez on the group of merchants who feel like they are easy targets.
Well, all merchants are frightened right now because of what's been going on, but especially the small merchants who do business in outdoor strip malls and shopping districts. They feel that they are the most exposed to the criminal element, and perhaps no one knows that better than the owner of the jewelry store behind me.
It's unbelievable things are happening like this.
Cesar Pascal is talking about the latest smash and grab robbery of a small jewelry store at the Eastridge shopping mall yesterday. Multiple suspects sacking the store of valuables in just seconds.
And for something like this to happen, it's so sad. Everybody is like really worried, very worried that they could be next.
But in Pascal's case, it already happened. Last March, his jewelry store near downtown San Jose was violently robbed by 3 suspects. They smashed the glass cases and took jewelry, robbed the cash register, and pointed guns at his employees. One female worker quit the next day after 15 years with the store. His surveillance cameras, combined with neighbors, captured all the evidence in the getaway car, which led to the arrest of 3 suspects. 2 are still in custody and 1 is out on bail.
But yeah, it's a good security system. It definitely pays off.
Pascal says he's seen how luxury and mall merchants are rightly getting extra police presence now. He doesn't see the same kind of attention in his neighborhood.
Knowing that all these officers now are in one area alone because of what's going on, it's more afraid. It's more afraid, definitely. We're pleading to the chief of police and the mayor to divide the police force around the small businesses.
Pascal does hire private security, but it's expensive. His store is now closed an extra day per week, and he's considering locked doors with a buzzer system to let customers in. It could help, but he also runs the risk of driving away customers just when he needs them the most. In San Jose, Len Ramirez, KPIX5.
It's completely unbelievable. Mr. Pascal is a minority private business owner who has to struggle to keep his business open during the pandemic. But as soon as he was able to open his business back up, he was met with another threat of closure due to these smash and grab incidents. He will now have to cover additional costs of damages, installing cameras, hiring security, increased insurance costs, and possibly harm to his customers, and possibly alienating his customers due to the tight security measures. You know, Michelle, here in San Francisco, they talk about victimless crimes, but obviously it's not. Here in San Francisco, there was a private security guard that was doing security on a local news team that was covering a smash and grab, and he got murdered as a result of that. I don't see that as being a victimless crime at all. I see that as being something that can be dealt with. Unfortunately, nobody seems to have the political will to want to do that. What do you think about the notion of retailers having to pay for their own security? And how do you think it will affect consumers and the cost of goods?
You know, owning your own business is the American dream. And many immigrants come to this country and they start and operate small businesses. But whether the business is small or large, it goes without saying that losses to retailers are going to be passed on to consumers. And I think the incident that you mentioned is important because we had an incident like not dissimilar here in LA where someone was trying to steal a pack of beer from a drugstore and the security guard tried to stop him and was murdered. So that's a very real consequence for what starts out as a property crime. It certainly escalates and it's a murder. But obviously retailers can't tell their employees to try to stop these thieves because if the employee gets injured or killed, then the liability is on the owner of the business. So I suspect what they tell their employees is to stand back and let them take the property. So these are some of the most unfortunate consequences of the kind of things that we're seeing with these what start out sometimes as shoplifting or more simple robberies.
All right, well, listen, I'm handing you the magic wand, Michelle. I'm going to let you wave that magic wand and fix all of these problems. What are you going to do?
I would have different penalties for repeat offenders than for first-time offenders. I think that's critical, that people be held responsible for repeated crimes. And I would have different penalties for people who use guns and deadly weapons during crime than people who don't, because the use of a deadly weapon or a firearm during a theft exponentially increases the risk of harm and can ultimately result in murder. So just the fact that they're bringing them to the scene of what's supposed to be a simple theft should be punishable more than someone who does not engage in that dangerous conduct.
But there's no accountability anyway. I mean, there's absolutely none right now. If I had that magic wand, I would restore accountability. And I'd do it by fixing some of the problems in Proposition 47 and quit lying to the public. I would elect politicians who make public safety a priority over prisoners' rights or over felons' rights. And I pursue the social media connections between organized smash and grabs and selling stolen goods. It seems to be that is the forum where these things are being put together right now. I think that we have a long way to go. Listen, thank you for joining us today, Michelle.
My
Your
pleasure.
depth of knowledge and concise analysis have brought much needed clarity and context to an issue that affects all Californians. We are calling on Gavin Newsom to schedule an emergency legislative session to pass new laws that could solve these smash and grab crimes and or support a new initiative to peel back Prop 47. Head over to the rescuecalifornia.org website to sign the public safety petition. That'll be it for this week's podcast. Thank you for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe.